You are listening to the ReRACEables podcast.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the ReRACEables podcast. Season 34 at 10 p.m. Eastern Time will debut of The Amazing Race, our favorite show. We love it. We love it. This is an exciting time, and you know what that means. The beginning of a new season means it's another chance for us to break it down and do our power rankings. With me tonight is the crew, including Jeremy, Lizzie, and Nicole. What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Hello.
So we put together these power ranking the teams that are in the Amazing Race from 12 to 1, and we base it solely off of minimal information that we're given. Relationship, the age of the team members, right? They give us these 1-minute Instagram videos, and we use those to kind of learn what we can learn about the teams based on the pictures in that video, how they communicate, what they say, what they're doing, and anything in between. And then we, of course, kind of read way in between the lines and have some fun with it. And then from there, we take those power rankings and we have a little scoring system that we do throughout the season. We'll explain this as we go, but ultimately 1 through 12 is added up. When a team gets eliminated, we deduct those points that you ranked them. So if you had your number 1 team get eliminated, boom, you would deduct 1 point from the total, and that would be your score for that week. At the end of the season, whoever has the lowest score is the winner. We've usually done it with the final 3, and then whoever has the lowest or the closest to the winner wins. And we usually have a lot of fun with this. So that all being said, we each go about it a lot differently. Now, my blog post is coming out tomorrow as well, going into kind of my background of how I got to each of my rankings for each of the 12 teams. But there's 5 factors that I really consider. For me, the number one thing that's important is how competitive people are. I'm a competitive person myself. And when that competitive nature is kind of comes through the screen, I just think that that's really the potential number one factor in determining how far teams can go. And really separate themselves, especially when it gets kind of close at the end and you have all really competitive teams left. Number 2 is a big change for me. I eliminated athletic ability. I eliminated it. That was a big deal for me because I always thought that that was kind of a big deal, and maybe it is, but it didn't make my list this time, and I replaced it with strong relationship. That's based on Kim and Penn's win from season 33, their relationship really kind of turned the tide. That was clearly the thing that propelled them to the finish line first. Third, endurance. I think that that's kind of an underrated thing. It really goes back to teams like Jerry and Frank from season 32. Jerry was 60. He had a bad hip. Even though he was an athlete in his day, it was kind of he was never going to really last throughout the whole 30-day race and the marathon that it is. Fourth thing is know-how, which is kind of how savvy are you? How are you socially? Can you make an alliance if it's necessary? Can you break an alliance if it's necessary? When do you use one of the advantages, a U-turn or something like that? How do you scheme your way to kind of get from place A to place B? Are you savvy enough to have watched previous seasons and learned about how to pay a taxi to get in front of you and drive to the destination and you just follow them? Do you just follow the other teams? Kind of that know-how of, and the last thing that I judge it on is luck. There's always that aspect of luck, not catching that train, not getting that taxi, or as we always go back to season 7, somehow Uchenna and Joyce getting on that plane and eventually beating out Rob and Amber to the season 7 crown.
But luck, you cannot judge based on these videos.
No, and that's why it's at number 5. I think it has to be in there. And it's something that you can't really predict, so it doesn't really go into my rankings, but those are the 5 things: competitiveness, strong relationships, endurance, know-how, and luck. And the last thing is that I kind of judge my 12 to 1 rankings on if this race was run 1,000 times. This is probably where I see each team kind of averaging out in that placement. So Jeremy, how do you come up with your rankings?
So for me, I'm riding the train of I predicted Kim and Penn were going to do really well in their season. And lo and behold, they did, as we mentioned. So I decided to take that and do something a little wild. Maybe I'm overstating it, what have you. I ran a mental scenario and then I based my rankings off of that. The scenario is, how well do the teams bake a cake after running a mile? And I say that again. If the teams were to run 1 mile and then immediately bake a cake after that, how well would they do? I think the Amazing Race demands some form of athleticism and some form of endurance. So that's where the mile comes in. And the Amazing Race also demands mental exercise, even when it comes after running around trying to find the next point in the race. So baking a cake takes teamwork. So that involves communication. It also involves being on the same page. It takes some precision and it takes patience. That is something that I have not predicted with teams in the past, is this factor of patience and how well we saw it with Mike and Mo last season when they're trying to assemble that collage of pictures rather than trying to think to form an actual coherent image. They just put it all on the wall and that really destroyed them. So that is how I approached my rankings. Is I looked at some factors similar to you, Tom. I did look at drive and I did look at a lot of like the mentality too. I looked a lot at their relationship for this when trying to run this exercise. But yeah, that's my approach. We'll see how we do.
Well, I can't say that I was quite that not even detailed, but just so very, very specific. And
That's
how
right.
I
Nobody was. That's the beauty of it, that everybody
That's
comes up with
true.
their own rankings.
That's true. This is the way I kind of gauge a lot of things in life. You know, if I'm going to like something, if I'm going to like someone, if I'm going to like a place, is my gut instinct. And a feeling when you look at something or you listen to something and just kind of right away, and the more you take it in, a feeling kind of grows from inside of you, and then that's how you develop an opinion. And it's not logical, it's not numeric, it's not fact-based, it's just vibes. So it's kind of what I got. Obviously there is more thought to it than that. I didn't just look at them and then make, a decision, but I know that type of judgment making is very frustrating to some people because there's no rhyme or reason for it. If Josh ever guest stars on this podcast again, we all know Josh, he's one of those people, but that's my way of doing it is a little bit more gut feeling based, which is how I do most things in life. So
I am judging these books for their covers hard. Okay, I am taking whatever sound bites or hair colors or physiques, and I am running with it and jumping to conclusions and and considering all the themes that have already been mentioned, such as relationship dynamics, competitiveness, their intentions. Okay, a lot of teams I'm hearing,
Absolutely.
oh, our goal is to have a good time. Okay, you're not gonna fare well in my rankings. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, don't give away the
Spoiler
roots. Yeah,
alert.
don't give it all away. So the last question before we jump in, I just want to throw out everyone is, did you have trouble finalizing your rankings for this group?
yes,
Maybe-
absolutely.
yeah.
I've got so I don't know if we're this specific, but I've broken
Don't get
it.
specific. Hold it for the
right.
for the rankings, but go.
Yes, I had a lot of trouble.
Yeah, definitely harder for me this than last season. Last season, it was easy for me to like choose like my bottom 3, bottom 4, top 3, top 4, and break it down there. I had trouble finalizing who would be like that top third and that bottom third.
I'm glad to hear you guys did too, because I was like, is this just me really wigging out about this? But okay.
It was hard picking like who takes the number like 3 spot, who takes the 4th from the bottom spot.
Same.
So when it came to like, again, top tier, mid tier, low tier, when it came to deciding who was gonna just make top from mid or who was just gonna get to bottom, it was that little cusp line that was hard for me.
I knew my number 1 The rest was a mishmash, but I knew a general area that they were going in, but I feel like it's a lot of the same person. Like, why are there so many dancers?
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that, but I had a similar thought. I did 4 different tries, and I had consistency at the bottom in all 4 tries after watching the videos countless times. The middle and the top switched around, but I like to try to fit it into my 5 categories, and I was able to do that. But again, I think that 1,000 races, if they ran this race with these 12 teams 1,000 times, somehow I try to simulate that in my head and allow that to kind of go with you, Lizzie, and just kind of let the gut vibe of how I feel these teams would each do over that course of a sample size, and then let it all kind of hang out from there. Good. So I'm glad we all sucked at finalizing our rankings, and that makes it all the more fun. We are going to jump into our power rankings for season 34 of The Amazing Race from 12 to 1. So let's start off with our number 12 team, the team that you think really has no chance, and depending on your rankings, is the worst at running a mile and baking a cake, or gave you the worst vibes, or the worst book cover that you judged. My number 12, I had Marcus and Michael, the military brothers. I guess when I watch this and I think about competitiveness, yeah, they seem like they're kind of competitive. Maybe I'm judging them based on the military. Bigger and older, and he's smaller and younger. Ha ha ha. Their experience to kind of help them have some know-how, I don't really see it. I think that military, I respect them for doing that and everything that that entails, and I admire that life that they're living. I just don't think it really lends itself to The Amazing Race and traveling the world and completing challenges and potentially having to be strategic in all those senses in a game around the world again. So I think they're new to the race. I don't think they really had much experience. Maybe Marcus had a little bit. Yeah, they're smart and physically fit, but again, I eliminated athletic ability from really being a major factor in this. And I think that something like Deo and playing music would really just kind of upend them. And I don't see them really doing much more than chest bumping and saluting to the camera. I just don't see it with them. So that's why I had them at number 12. Oh, last thing with them, they don't want to seem needy. And they said something about they'll help people if they're asked, but do we really need to accept an alliance? Seems like they're ready to work alone, and that's kind of their strategy. And maybe that works for them, but I don't think that works in the race. So number 12, Marcus and Michael.
My number 12, Emily and Molly, the long lost twins. They seem so sweet. They seem so happy to be there. And that's what's wrong. That's it. You know, they've only known each other for a year. They don't know anything about each other. And when I think sisters, or when I think even more so twins, I think reading each other's thoughts, knowing what the other person's going to do, knowing each other so well, you can know that you can run ahead because she'll be 10 feet behind, but then she's going to have enough breath to go mix the batter for the cake. Do you know what I mean? And they're just not there. They don't have that. They're still getting to know each other. So this for them is a trip around the world to kind of get to know each other. And there's no competitiveness there. In their interview, there was no talk of strategy. They didn't introduce any sort of, anything that made them seem like they wanted to win $1 million. So I think it's great they're here. I think it's great they found each other, but they're number 12 in my book.
Lizzie, I completely agree. I also put them in dead last. Amazing story. Love the story. Perhaps better suited for a Hallmark movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Not The Amazing Race. Have they even seen the show before? I couldn't tell. No ounce of competitiveness in their bodies that I could see of. Goal was to spend time together. Okay, you can do that. Taking a knitting class, not racing the world.
Wow, we're coming out hot today.
So my number 12, I like him. I love him, but they cannot run the mile. Tim and Rex. I put them at number 12. I love them. Nicole, you mentioned, really looking at everything, and I will acknowledge I want someone to look at me the way Rex looks at Tom when they're talking, like they were in the video. Rex was fully turned towards Tom.
Tim,
And to me, that was such a huge team thing. But sticking to my mental exercise, I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with some of the physical stuff, the race challenges. And I think they could bake a good cake with some instructions.
Tim and Rex is my number 11. Big thing I had with them, Rex is 59. He's out of shape. He would be the first to admit it. I like that they've known each other for 6 years and they seem to have a genuine friendship. I think that's a good thing about them. I think that they mentioned networking and team building, which I was hoping Rex Ryan, a former NFL head coach, would talk about, and using that kind of to his advantage. He knows what his disadvantages are. And maybe he's the greatest strategy guy that you could possibly have in the Amazing Race. But I think if you ran it 1,000 times, I think they would probably be able to latch on and use that networking and team building to kind of work together with other people so that they can get to the next leg or two. But I just feel like at some point, there's no way that they can keep up, no matter how much they are laughing and everybody's rooting for them and liking them, or, everybody's rooting for that underdog. It doesn't really matter. I think ultimately the physical aspect, the endurance aspect would catch up to them. That's why I have Tim and Rex at number 11.
So I also have Tim and Rex at number 11. I want to know, how well do they really know each other? I know that they've been friends for 7 years or so. But when they were discussing, like, oh, you would do heights, or I need you to go deeper. Do you really know who's more patient? Who has more of an eye for detail? Who, these deeper level character traits that you need by having more of a friend, less of a friendship relationship with a large age gap. And again, I'm jumping to conclusions, but that's what I do here. Also, they don't seem like they need the money. What's really motivating them to push through uncomfortable situations? And does Rex have the stamina that the race requires?
Yeah, and plus, why are they on the show? To grab, I think we said this in the hot takes, to grab
That
a
was one of my
demographic.
big hot takes, yeah.
Yeah, and it's gonna
Not
work.
buying it.
It's gonna work. Jet fans and Bills fans all over are gonna either root for him because the Jets love Rex, or the Bills probably hate him because he sucked as their coach. Lizzie, number 11.
So my number 11 was Aubrey and David, the I think now engaged ballroom dancers. I think they're here for like a pre-honeymoon. Are they athletic or are they just young? Can't tell. Nothing about them really wowed me. The way they talked about each other, they were just like, oh, he's great. And he said, oh, she's great. And like, I don't know, there was like no competitive edge, nothing about them struck out. Like, I was like, you're $1 million winners. You know what I mean? It's just, I know that they were last minute add-ons. And one of my thoughts when I was watching these videos was, how did they even get cast? There's like nothing spectacular about them to me. And then just before we started, you reminded me they were alternates and they got bumped up. They got the last minute call. That makes a lot of sense to me. You can see it clear as day. They're a good experienced team, and I don't think they're long for this world.
Well, my number 11. So this is where I put Emily and Molly, the long lost twins. Yeah, out of all the teams, they had the shortest relationship together. When talking about what each other does, Molly was athletic and then Emily was just mom. in my scenario, they probably would not talk or discuss beforehand who makes the dry ingredients and who combines the wet ingredients for making this cake. So that's going to cost them some time. That's going to cost them quality of cake. I would only really give that cake maybe 3 out of 10 bites. And when we're talking about being competitive in this amazing race, calm is not what gets you $1,000,000 and to the final mat.
All right, my number 10, I had Luis and Michelle. I'm going to start this with the clip of her running. I don't know if it was like because she was like purposely trying to like look good on camera. It was comical. You can go back, everyone, look at that clip.
Wasn't there a camera on them while they were doing it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, they're filming the jogging, awkward jogging.
Right.
scenes.
But just based on that, I put them at number 10, honestly. I wrote yikes. Also, I wrote a quote, their strategy is to have fun. Need I say more? Also, one more note, I think they care too much about how they look. I think they're the kind of people that are going to be afraid to get down and dirty when necessary, and they just don't have what it takes.
Number 10. They seem so great. Dom and Rich is who I have for number 10. I think that they are one of the most unique teams that's ever been cast on The Amazing Race. They look so interesting and so fun. I think it's great that they're, motivational speakers. I think they're full of these wonderful, like, one-liners that really get you inspired. But unless there's action with that sort of mindset, I don't think they're going to last very long. I think they're so wonderfully in love with each other that they might miss a clue because they're staring into each other's eyes or something. Like, I don't know. They just seem so like, and that's, again, great, but maybe not for here or this. They say that Dom is good at a social game, so maybe there's hope there. That's honestly kind of what kept me from putting them further down than 10. So, maybe there's hope that'll keep them in a couple legs and then my rankings will be more accurate, but I don't think that that's going to carry them all the way to the $1 million there.
So number 10, I had Linton and Shariq. Now, call me recency bias, but I just had all the makings of the Arun and Natalia with them. Right? They're the father-daughter team. They have a unique relationship. They're the only father-daughter team. But I kind of, yeah, they're from Jamaica. They immigrated here in 2001. That's part of their amazing story. I like that they were fans and they said that they watched the show. That's what made me put them at the top of my no chance category over Tim and Rex and Marcus and Michael. That was kind of the deciding factor there. I like that they talked about communication and balance. Sharik being more of the thinker, Linton being more of the builder. But I didn't like how, yes, I took off athletic ability from my requirements to win, but I don't like Sharik admitting that she's a total non-athlete, because that just tells me Donald wears your trousers and you can't do the dance and the song, and the two of them just look like they're total spazzes when it would come to a challenge like that, and it would just sink them like it did for fan favorites Arun and Natalia, who gave the greatest clip of season 33 with. So I didn't put that was just so great, but it was the first of many exits for Arun and Natalia, considering they were saved 5 different times or whatever it is. And the last thing for Linton and Shariq, why I threw them in the 10 spot in the no chance category, they talked about how he's strong-headed and that they have to figure out how to work together. I mean, coming off of Kim and Penn, Raquel and Kayla, Dusty and Ryan, the communication was paramount for all 3 of those teams. They worked so well together and they knew each other so well. I just don't see that with Linton and Shariq, so I put them at number 10. Again, atop the no chance category. Jeremy, number 10.
My number 10, say what you will, Derek and Claire. That is my number 10. Yep, I feel that. And here is a lie. They are new to teamwork. Because here's another thing that was said was Claire said that they feel they have different strengths. Now, other teams in their videos, the ones I hung on to that ranked higher on my list, knew these strengths, knew these differences, they had these talks. And for her to just come out and say feel, I don't know if it was to go on the production side of things, I don't know if stuff was cut out or left out, but to me, judging the book by its cover, I did not agree with that in a way that would make them rank higher. So I don't think they could bake a good cake, and therefore they ranked number 10. Number 9, where I put Marcus and Michael. Last season, put Mike and Mo as my number 3, and I've learned my lesson. But I don't think they'll go out as fast as Mike and Mo did.
And definitively as Mike and Mo did. They go in the race, they're out first. That's it. We saw it twice. They had 2 chances, and that's what happened.
Yeah. Don't want to repeat that. So Michael and Marcus, if you're listening, please don't disappoint me. But I think there is a difference between being a police officer versus being in the military. I feel in the military, there's a lot more in the way of discipline. And I feel that's something the race requires is discipline, being able to analyze and make a choice. I really hung on to the fact that they were each other's hero. This was the top of my, you could say, no chance or low tier list. I don't think they're going to win. But I think the fact that they have this respect for each other, being each other's hero, I think that's a factor to consider when they're baking the cake. I feel they're going to agree on who does what. I feel they are going to do their best to follow the instructions, but I feel the cake is going to be a little bland. So, 4 out of 10 bites. But I do think they'll run a pretty great mile, because that's the other part of this for me is running the mile and then baking the cake. And I think they've definitely got that endurance.
Yeah, I think they were very bland. That's a good word to throw them. And that's why, among other reasons, I had them at 12. Lizzie, you're number 9.
So I think it was Nicole that ranked these ones pretty low. Lewis and Michelle are sitting pretty at my number 9. And I say that on purpose because they are such a beautiful couple. And you touched on that too a little bit. I agree. I think they would be a little afraid to get dirty, afraid to get sweaty, afraid to not put their makeup on in the morning. Whatever. A firefighter and a dancer. They're fit. I think that's great. That is why they are at, not my last place. I guess they are still in my bottom category, my bottom 4, but right there on the cusp of my good experience category. They're just gonna outlive all the worst ones.
So I might live to regret this one, but number 9, I had Galinda and Lumumba, newlyweds, Team Orange. They're both 41. One's a teacher, one's an insurance writer. Again, valuing relationships as much as I am in this year's power ranking or this season's power rankings. They've only known each other 2.5 years, and they've been married for 1 year. They met later in life, which I liked. That's what kind of kept them, that whole dynamic, out of the bottom. Plus, they look fit and they look like they're capable of enduring the race, unlike Tim and Rex. I see the handshakes and the little dances, and she wears the pants, and he's 5'7" and she's 6'2", and they have a nice spirit together and great smiles. They look like they have fun together. But did they have a strategy? Because I didn't hear it. I didn't hear a strategy on what they're going to do to win. I didn't hear a strategy on what they're going to do in the beginning of the race, at the middle of the race, at the end of the race. I just kind of feel like they're the perfect team to kick off my second group, which is the good experience group. And let me just say this, and I'll throw this out here because I think some people mentioned it. I had a really tough time with this middle block, that kind of good experience team, because it felt like a lot of teams talked about having fun and having a good experience and they want to enjoy this. I just needed more competitiveness, more killer instinct. I had to really read between the lines. And I think maybe this might have been the hardest rankings to come up with, because you just didn't have those killers. Like Raquel and Kayla last year were killers. I knew that. They communicated that from the get-go, and I had them in the number 1 spot for a reason, and they finished as runners up. But I just don't see that with Glenda and Lumumba, Team Orange, number 9.
I agree. Nobody said, we're here to win. Nobody. Not one team.
Yeah, literally.
But like
a couple teams mentioned
more than half of them said, we're here to have a good time. We're here to have fun. We're here to get to know each other better. My number 9, and I can't believe I didn't have them lower, to be honest, but Rich and Dom. Okay. I thought I would put them lower, but the others just seemed even worse somehow. It's judgment based on the hair and the fact that she is a self-proclaimed mer fairy. I just don't have much faith in her street smarts if she's calling herself a mer fairy. The reason that they are number 9 and not 10 or 11 or 12 was because I do think that they have a good dynamic. They won't get frustrated with each other easily. And so that will take them as far as number 9 to me. My number 8 is Asta and Nina. Asta like pasta. I ranked them number 8 because they seem somewhat capable and
Definitely.
intelligent. However, this is Asta's dream, not this is our dream. Okay, seems like someone might be pulling the other one along a little bit. They're the teams that are waving their arms in front of the camera for no apparent reason. It just made them seem very uncoordinated. Okay. Jumping to conclusions here.
Jeremy, number 8.
My number 8. So, Tom, I put Glenda and Lumumba here, so not too far from where you were with them. Similar reasons. Short-term relationship, 2.5 years. They are quick decision, who is Glenda, versus detail-oriented, who is Lumumba. Glenda wears the pants and Lumumba irons the pants.
Right, they're funny, haha, that it makes you laugh, but
yeah. So
Kevin Hart.
yes.
does that make Glenda the Rock?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, she has the height.
Yeah.
So what I do like about them is that there is an established leadership. So when we're talking about dynamics, I think, you could easily get teams who butt heads. We've seen a lot of teams fall into that trap, especially when it comes to the roadblock. Even if when a team doesn't do well, they'll come back and say, you know what, I should have done that. Why didn't you listen to me? But I feel like here with an established leadership, I think there might have been only a couple of teams I've seen in the Amazing Race and what I've seen from the show that have had that, and it's worked out pretty well. So I think they'll run an okay mile. I'll think it'll be a little tough for them. And then going into baking this cake, I just think that it feels like one of them's going to get a little sloppy. So that's why I put them at my number 8.
Right along with you. My number 8 is also Glenda and Lumumba. For all the reasons you guys said, I think it's great. She's got a winning attitude. He has a sensitive attitude. In talking about all of these teams that are here for a good time, it makes me want to really see some big plot twist where Lumumba turns on Glenda and yells at her while they're running in the middle of a street, and just that would be so amazing and so not what we're expecting right now. I feel like all these teams are going to play very nicely together, and that just doesn't make for as good of TV.
Are you saying you want them to have a bad time?
No, I want to just
wants drama.
I want them to challenge each other. That starts my category of middle pack. Because they are fit. I won't overlook that. They are fit. There's clips of them working out. So that's why they've risen up at least to my middle 5 and not my bottom 4.
All right, I'll round out number 8, put them now. Emily and Molly. Love their story, inspiring. Technology is amazing that they found each other. Facebook, however that went down, it's got to be the craziest thing that could ever happen. Having said all that, I do like that they have such different lives, but they're trying to have that experience together. That's why I had to put them in the good experience category. I think that they're not going to make any real mistakes per se. I think they're just kind of plod along, and maybe miscommunication or not really being able to kind of one takes the lead and one follows the other kind of thing might catch up with them. They're a nice story. You love that, but they're not going to make for really great television outside of sharing their story, I feel like. And I think this group wants drama, and don't expect that from Emily and Molly. So a good experience is what they'll get, and that's why they land at number 8. In the number 7 spot, I have Quentin and Maddie, the cheerleaders from former NFL cheerleaders from the world champion, Super Bowl champion, Los Angeles Rams. I really love that about them, that they were Rams cheerleaders, not some other bad team. I like that they're the Super Bowl winning champion cheerleaders. I like that their relationship is about them being best friends. I like that they teach together. I like that they seem athletic. I like that they kind of are yin and yang to each other, but I didn't really like how much they kind of play to the camera, and it's kind of like a show with them. And I get that that'll make good TV, and I'm rooting for that always. I don't like that Quentin lacks focus. That seems like a really tough quality to not possess. And the other thing that really stood out was the money is great, but they're here for the experience. That was Quentin. So I feel like, again, all of that said, I had to put them in that good experience grouping. Could they get ahead of themselves and, like they said, not slow down because they're super hyper cheerleaders? Yeah, all right, go team, right? Like they're going to overdo something or miss something. That could be. They could win the whole thing. I feel like, again, this was a very difficult ranking from here on out to kind of go up. But I didn't get sucked in by a football thing this time. With, like, I put Connie and Sam at number 2. I had the Tim and Rex, the football coach, at the 11th spot, and the cheerleaders on the football team in the 7th spot. Bam. Thank you.
I also had Quentin and Maddie at number 7 for similar reasons. I liked that they pick up where each other lack. I like that they're fit, they're high energy. However, they're here for a good time. They're not here to win. They're here for a good time. I think of the here for a good times, they're higher in the pack to me.
Yeah, that's why I had them towards the higher.
That's why we
Yep.
agree there. Okay.
Yeah, they were the top team. Again, we were talking about separating the different groups. That was why I had them at the top of the good experience group.
For me, my number 7 was, I placed them close to you, Nicole, Asta and Nina. Compared to the other teams, 4 years is a good relationship time. Again, compared to the other teams, I do like their mindset. They described it as being like meditative. And I think when it comes to a lot of the thinking challenges, a lot of the problem solving challenges, that's really gonna come in handy. But yeah, them describing themselves being physically weak didn't do it to me. I feel they can make one of the best kicks out of all the teams. Undeniable. But I think they're gonna run one of the worst miles.
So my number 7, I feel like I'm catching up to the rest of you, was Rex and Tim. I know. They're solidly in my middle pack group. Should they have been lower? Should they have been higher? I don't know. They ended up in the middle. What really stuck out to me was when Rex said, if you want to be good, lean on yourself. If you want to be great, lean on yourself and others. So they're open.
Open like a true head football coach.
I know, right?
He almost sucked me in on that line.
He did well. It was notable enough for me to write it down. I think they're open to alliances. I think they are aware of what all of their weaknesses are. They're strategic. They see the whole thing as a big picture, right? They're looking at the entire game. They're not just looking, into the first quarter. They're not necessary. Maybe they're here for a good time, but I think that they understand that this whole thing is a game. And I think they're looking at it as such. So I think there's a lot more strategy there that's going to carry them farther. Do they have musical ability? Probably not. Can they run the fastest? No. But if they're open to alliances or, however they think other people are going to help them get farther, then I think that they stand a chance. And that's why I put them in 7.
Look at Lizzie throwing out football analogies and throwing it into the Amazing Race. Like, very proud. That was a great.
I don't even know you anymore, Lizzie.
Right.
Listen, if they ever listen to this, I need them to know I take this serious. It's not my first rodeo, guys.
And it is not. And if they come in dead last, we'll all have a good laugh, considering Nicole and I had him at 11 and Jeremy had him dead last. All right. Number 6, Jeremy, start us off.
All right, number 6, here we go. My peeps from Brooklyn, Linton and Shariq. Let's go. So here's the interesting thing I found with them was most parent teams, right? Most, father-daughter, father-son. Those teams, when it's come to athleticism, it's usually been the parent who's lacked the athleticism. So I think what makes Linton and Shariq interesting is that Linton in this team dynamic is the more athletic. I do think
by a lot.
Yeah. Okay, we haven't seen them in action yet. Sharik could be humble, she could say she's not athletic, but she may surprise us. She has the power of youth on her side. She's 23, so I think that's something to take into account for. They've been fans of the show for a while. I know this is a trap each of us have fallen into. They know who is going to do what type of roadblocks. That was huge for me going into this. And so I think they would have a tough mile. It is better than Asta and Nina's, but I do think they can make a good cake. So that's me, Linton Shariq, numero 6.
Linton and Shariq, number 6. For a lot of the same reasons as Jeremy said, parent-child teams hardly last. I feel like they do not have a good track record in this game. They, talked about seeing the world together. They did talk about strategy, and all of the physical abilities that they may or may not have, respectively. That's also why they are solidly in the middle of my pack team. Arun and Natalia vibes, but Arun and Natalia could kind of keep up a little bit. They just weren't the smartest. I feel like they made a lot of mental mistakes, not physical necessarily. I'm interested to see how that sort of dynamic plays out with these two, but they are as in the middle of the pack for me as you can get.
Number 6, I had Glenda and Lamumba. They're newlyweds, and yet they said they're excited to get to know each other. That's a little scary to me. I mean, you don't know who you married? Do better. You need to do better to be on the Amazing Race. I do like, though, that they have an attention to detail, and the fact that they're going to be able to build things will take them somewhat far on the Amazing Race.
My number 6, probably the most difficult team I had placing. Rich and Dom. They're such a unique couple, it seems. And again, we're watching a 1 minute and 9 second clip of them. So they're in their 30s. He's a life coach. She's a gym owner. I like that. I like that they've been partners for 3 years. I like that. That's a decent amount of time. I like that they have some strategy. That was probably the thing I liked most. Their strategy of not racing others, but themselves. That really stood out to me. I like that they had a strategy where, again, Glenda and Lamumba, like, did they have a strategy? No. So Rich and Dom had that. I like that. I like that Dom seems very social, and I didn't really understand what a Murfairy is. I don't know what that means.
We're gonna learn together.
I think so. And I wondered too about them. He said Dom helped him be good enough. Amazing. Good for him. That's awesome that you have that kind of love and connection. Again, that it tells me about their relationship. And I like that. But on the other side, looking at that from another perspective, how does that work when he's not firing on all cylinders as life coach, when he's out of his comfort zone and he's in a foreign country and curveballs are thrown at him or her? I wonder too how her hair and that whole appearance will affect them in foreign places. It's one thing in America. I wonder, is that gonna help them, hurt them, no effect? I don't really know. Again, they just look like the most unique team ever just from looking at them. But here's the last thing I'll say about Rich and Dom. This was the first team that mentioned excited about winning $1 million. Even Rich, who said it in his life coach humble way, he still said it, right? He's excited to win $1 million, and Dom gave a nice, big, bright rainbow smile. The Rich and Dom, number 6.
Number 5, I've got Asta like pasta and Nina. I think they're smart. I think they're driven. They seem excited about the race, or I guess Asta really did. Nicole, I know you touched on this earlier. It's not Nina's dream, it's Asta's dream. But Nina seems so down, so supportive, so ready. They seem energetic about it. And I think that there's a comfort in them with each other that they're not getting to know each other on this race. I feel like they already know each other. They know each other's strengths. Director of business and vice president of operations. It's like they use their brains all the time for their work. And so I think that the mental challenges on this race, they won't have a hard time with, or I hope not, at least. I saw a lot of potential in them. That's why they're a little more highly ranked in my middle of the pack sort of group.
You have them at number 5. Do you have them like winning it all? Would that surprise you, shock you?
It would not surprise me if they won it. I feel like they seem very level-headed, and a lot of people get caught up in, the rush of things or the rush of other people, or they get intimidated. I don't think that's going to happen to them. I think they're going to stay focused. I think they're going to stay together, level-headed. And those are traits that take you to the top.
I also have them at number 5. And this is where I walk into my sleeper category, right? Mm-hmm. The teams that I think have an outside chance, but maybe more than you even think, of actually winning. They're an all-girl female team. Do I think that they're as slam dunk as Raquel and Kayla were? No, not even close. Things I like that they've been together 4 years. Again, strong relationships is a big thing. I like that they're engaged. I like that they make each other laugh. I did learn through Instagram also, because Asta follows me, that she's a comedian, which is cool. I'm always rooting for a comedian. I just got the impression from watching them communicate that they enjoy each other's company. They understand how their dynamic is and how their relationship works. I like that they mentioned meditative and mindful mindsets. I think that kind of taking a breath to run your own kind of race will help them. But the biggest thing is that they're underestimated, and they know it. They want everyone to underestimate them and look at them and not be thinking anything of them. Reality is, I think that this team, on the shoulders of Asta being a super fan, again, sleeper for a reason. I couldn't put them any higher. I need that killer instinct to kind of throw an all-female team at the top. Because again, it's only happened, 3 or 4 times, whatever it is. And so Asta the pasta and Nina the handshaking, awkward married couple, engaged couple. Yeah, number 5.
My number 5, I had Derek and Claire, the couple from Big Brother. I just can't really tell if they are capable, or is this just simply a CBS gimmick to get Big Brother fans to watch Amazing Race. I do like that they're experienced at a reality competition show, so although we didn't see it in their clip, I feel like they would be likely to have some sort of strategy or trying to make an alliance. But I could also see them getting caught up in the drama.
Number 5, Lewis and Michelle. I didn't know what to do with this team at first. I really read into the body language of this. I also got like hothead vibes from Lewis. I didn't see it in his interview. He was very much, we saw many of these teams. They're a good experienced team. Enjoying the experience is what they said. I think they will run a good mile and they could bake a good cake. That's how they landed high for me at the number 5. I would agree that this would probably be the start of my sleeper. So yeah, Lewis and Michelle.
Coming out of the sleeper category, right? We had our no chancers, Marcus Michael, Tim and Rex, Linton and Shariq, our good experience, Glenda and Lumumba, Emily and Molly, Quentin and Maddie. Rich and Dom had there, but also I have them kind of as a sleeper. Could have went either way. And then Asta and Nina as a sleeper. Now we're going into the contenders. These are the people that I think if you ran it 1,000 times would have the most top 4 competitive finishes, including winning it a handful of times. I really had a hard time kind of locking down who the top 4 were. At number 4, I put Derek and Claire. A couple of things that I really like about them. First and foremost, their resources. This is what almost made me put them at number 1. They have to be up there for me. And the biggest reason is their resources, meaning they're in the reality TV community, right? They have access. Yeah, we all have access to them, but they really do. They were on a reality show. They mingle with those people. They live in that Hollywood life bubble of whatever ABC, probably D-list celebrity that they are. They're all over social media. They're all over CBS. And you're right, Nicole. Maybe it is a CBS gimmick to get people to watch from Big Brother to The Amazing Race. That might be true. Who knows? Maybe it's something else. Who knows if they're even still together? Derek was just on the Challenge USA on CBS this summer. And so was season 32 champ James. James and Derek are friends. They are close friends, I would argue. They are running in the same circles all the time, running these events. They probably text each other all the time. And I have to believe that Derek gets that call and immediately calls up Will and James and says, okay, give me everything you got in your playbook. Right? And look what color they are, too. What color are they? They're purple.
Purple.
They're the purple team. Right? And even like James leaks out like the purple team's last finishes have been really great. Raquel and Kayla, 2. Will and James, 1. Derek and Claire, ? For that reason alone, I wanted so badly to put them at first. But then there's Claire. Claire doesn't strike me to have that competitive edge.
All right, number 4, I had Will and Abby. Is this their first appearance on our rankings?
It is.
Oh, I think they're smart. I like that they're super fans. I like that they know each other very well. Some weaknesses that may hold them back from, first, second, or third place is that they might be a little too nice. They may.
A little green.
Yeah, I want someone to get a little gritty. I'm always looking for the drama of like someone to pull a Boston Rob kind of move. They don't have that in them, I can tell.
Rich and Dom, number 4. Y'all made good points though about how Dom's appearance may factor, because we did talk about how we're going to be only really in America, most likely for the finale, but the rest of the show we're sticking to a lot of Europe. We've seen in The Amazing Race where in certain cultures, they won't talk to a member of the team based on either appearance or gender. So I think that could lend itself to be a factor depending where we go. I acknowledge that, but I think they run a great mile. I think they do a pretty good cake. Maybe their cake is a little too sugary. Maybe it's a little on the sweet side. Maybe Dom has added in some sprinkles. It's a little much. It's a bit of a rainbow cake. It's a little much, but it's enough for them to be a number 4 team for me.
Lizzie, number 4.
4, Marcus and Michael. They're physical, they're intellectual, they know each other, they're familiar with each other, they look up to each other. What I thought was interesting, I don't remember which one of them referenced it, but they acknowledged that they both have already traveled a lot. And I think that is significant in its own ways, sort of like, was it Raquel or Kayla? One of them was a flight attendant, or maybe they're both flight attendants.
Yeah.
That gives you a leg up automatically. I feel like you just kind of, you know your way around an airport, you know your way around somewhere foreign. So automatically you are past that hurdle of having to get comfortable with that. So you can kind of focus on the strategy or the challenges.
But didn't it strike you though? Did you see that there was a cruise ship behind them when they said that? Or the fact that they said that they were on leave from the military to go do this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That kind of hit me like they don't go anywhere.
It doesn't mean that they haven't been other places before they were on leave. Marcus and Michael didn't give us a lot to work with. So I've chosen to highlight.
They don't have a lot. They're military guys.
Listen, nobody else challenged anybody else's rankings. I'm gonna defend it.
We're getting to the top now.
All right, well, I'll cut in here because Lizzie, I agree with you.
Okay.
Not that I had them at number 4, but I had them at my number 3.
One of us is gonna have Jeremy's cake on our faces.
All right. I did not want Mike and Mo to influence in a bad way Marcus and Michael. Okay. Yes, I saw the similarities. However, I don't think they'll be as clueless as Mike and Mo.
Lizzie, number 3.
Ready to defend myself again. Number 3, Quentin and Maddie. We've seen cheerleaders, Miss Americas, do well. I think of Dustin and Candace when I look at Quentin and Maddie. It might not seem like it, but cheerleading is competitive. It's a sport. They are fit. They are used to being around a lot of other people and having to make themselves shine and do better. They're dance instructors now. I think that means they've got an empathy. I got very inspired when I saw their video, which that's probably the cheerleader in them. But I don't know. That was a good gut feeling that I had about them.
I got your back here, Lizzie. I've got your back. Quentin and Maddie, they were almost my number 1 team. I think one of the strongest things for me too is the fact they are a friendship versus a couple.
Yes.
I think that is huge in this race when it comes to where a team could fall apart. Being able to teach dance together is a huge factor as well. You have to be on the same page with each other. You can't be overstepping one. You have to be in sync. I agree with you, Lizzie. Quentin and Maddie, strong number 3 for me.
Number 3 for me, I have Aubrey and I have David. I think the biggest thing that stood out for me and why I had them so high, yeah, they're young, yeah, they're good looking, yeah, they're dancers and they're athletic and fit and I like that. But above all else, I loved the relationship that they communicated on their video. Aubrey saying that David's attentive to detail, he's patient. David saying that Aubrey gets things done. She's the best at what she does, and she's an incredible woman. And they were the only team that really cut through to an emotional response to where Aubrey was like brought to tears by David's compliments. I also like that they were last minute, right? They're kind of playing with house money. Let's not forget that.
My number 2, everybody else ranked pretty low.
Oh, no.
I have Linton and Shariq. Did I say her name right?
You nailed it.
Okay, good. Keyword, I wrote in all caps in my notes, balance. They balance each other out. They know each other well. Okay. Her whole life, he's known her. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses. They are physically capable, both of them, which we don't often see. I think they're both physically capable.
I agree with you. I got your back.
And we don't often see that with father, daughter. And They're intellectuals. He's an assistant principal.
Number 2, I'm going to go because everybody has already said them and everybody else is counting them out. Louis and Michelle, the firefighter and the dancer. I just feel like they're two going to be a great presence on the show. I think big smiles are coming from them. They're kind of funny. They're definitely competitive. Their strategy came out when they were talking about, Louis said he hopes that he can become Mr. Worldwide and hopefully not Mr. First Out. Right? I love that because he's aware of trying not to be the laughing stock. And maybe I'll have egg on my face from Louis, but I don't think so. But they mentioned bringing home the money, even in passing, because Louis didn't want to seem too confident or cocky. He definitely has, I think you said it, Jeremy, maybe like a little bit of a hothead in him. But you could see the passion. They radiate great energy, and they want to win. That's what I got from that. Hopefully there's a dance or music challenge that they'll be able to crush, and their choosers will not let them down.
My number 2, Tom, I know you're a supporter. Derek and Claire. I'll be honest, I didn't quite think of the angle that you brought up about them having access to all of this insider information, but I think that is maybe subconsciously why I placed them so high.
Strengthens the argument. It's unavoidable.
It sure does. I think they know reality TV. They know strategy. I think just by being in this world, just by knowing these people, they've watched the race. They know what it takes.
I mentioned once before, but I think they were pretty high up, and I think they're higher on everyone's list. This is where I put Abby and Will. They've been dating for 8 years, but they've known each other since kindergarten. So that's a huge factor. They gave ReRACEables vibes when they talked about game planning each episode. We all kind of talk about if we went on the race. By the way, Single World, seeking a partner for the amazing race. Name is Jeremy Stein, available at your pleasure. We've all talked about it here on the show if we were to go on. And I think if any of us had the chance to, we would have some kind of edge. And so I feel that's the same with them. Abby is super smart. Are you kidding me? MIT? She has those logic like puzzles down. Abby and Will.
All right, Lizzie, we both had him number 1, so.
Abby and Will.
Yeah, Abby and Will.
I support everything Jeremy just said. You learn how to support one another. You learn how to communicate with one another in the most beneficial, meaningful way, in the most efficient way. All that's going to come into play. I'm excited to see their lifelong relationship essentially sort of skyrocket them to the front. We all know it will.
Yeah, they really were a grand slam number 1 pick. They are in a category of their own. This is my top category, the favorite. I think they have to be. The biggest thing above anybody else of all the teams, no matter what the circumstances, despite all the information we've heard, to me, the number 1, the MVP of the whole season right now, hot take, is Abby. She's gonna be the MVP. You could see her like bubbling and gushing out of how much she loves that this is happening. And you know what? Maybe they'll catch bad luck and be out early. I hope not. I don't think that's gonna happen. But to me, they were a home run. Oh, and Abby also, MVP. She went to MIT. Like, on top of all of her super fandom, she's super smart. And she's probably an excellent problem solver. And if Will is with her, he must be pretty damn smart too, and pretty savvy himself. And I really think that they'll win.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, to close me out, here we go. Aubrey and David.
My man.
They are going to be the ones that will run the best mile. They are going to be the ones that are going to bake the best cake. For me, Nicole, you've inspired me from previous seasons in looking at body language. And I just felt that their body language and you said it so well, Tom, the way they praised each other, the way they talked about each other was so strong and so moving to me. Call me a romantic. I think they're going to become number 1. I do agree, like, this was hard for me. It was hard to choose between Aubrey and David. and Abby and Will. A part of me is also rooting for the underdog here, Aubrey and David. Like, they have, if we're talking drive here, are you kidding me? To be told after casting was announced, hey, a team dropped out. Are you still available? Do you want to come on? That is such a huge drive to then like really take it on. I think that's going to launch them. So I'm rooting for them. I'm the romantic here. Aubrey and David, young love. Let's go.
So I agree, Jeremy. I also had them at number 1. I love their relationship dynamic. They're adorable, first of all.
Absolutely.
I can tell they're so in love with each other. They have so much respect for each other. I can tell, like, I'll be shocked if they ever get in a fight on this race. Like, they just seem like they mesh well, they get along. They're not hotheads. They're gonna think everything through. They're gonna be calm. They know their strengths, they know their weaknesses. They have an attention to detail. They're young, they're fit. She's able to manage people, which is a very important skill. And then he also has the kind of mechanical brain, which is a different skill set that is also very useful on The Amazing Race. Love them, rooting for them.
So there you have it. Those are our rankings from 12 to 1. Be sure to stay with us all season long to see how these power rankings develop and how the new season of The Amazing Race, first one not starting in America, no non-elimination legs, all plays out. We'll be here all season long on the ReRACEables podcast. Thanks for being with us. Be sure to outlike, outcomment, outshare the rest. I'm your host, Tom. Thank you to Nicole, Lizzie, and Jeremy. We'll talk to you next time on the podcast. Thanks.